Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Viewers of Gunjur Online TV, another episode of Salaji Turning Point for the people of Gunjur. As you can see today, we are discussing effects of COVID-19 on our society. I am Ahmed Manjang, your host. In the studio, we have DF Manneh and Professor Lamine Conteh, and I believe Banka Manneh will join us later. Um, if you are used to this program, first I'll give update about COVID-19 because COVID-19 still across the world is showing no sign of slowing down. In fact, India past 48 hours yesterday and today they recorded 90,000 cases per day. 400,000 Americans could die by December 1st. And Gambia, we cannot even quarantine the COVID positives, much more the suspected cases. But then we have a natural disaster. Everywhere is flooding. We will discuss that. And also 37 million US dollars has been disbursed across, between 87,000 households across the Gambia. And the people of Combo are completely excluded. We will discuss this. How is that possible? Who in Gambia, how can you determine which family is needy and which one is not? We will talk about that. And who is going to dispose? We know Gambians how corrupt we are, even behind the scene. But you give Gambian physical cash and tell them to go and distribute it. I see this as a political watchers for Banka. Banka is here today, a little bit earlier. So, Banka, we are discussing 37 million to be distributed physical cars to 87,000 families. From Fonyi to the URR, but Combo people are excluded. We will talk about that. We will talk about the effect of COVID and also the natural disasters we are watching. So just quickly, I'll give you update on COVID-19. One thing very, very clear and one thing with this COVID is that you cannot mix health issues with politics. We've seen Americans, they play politics with COVID, and you know what COVID is doing to the American people, their economy, and it can even determine who become the next president. We have seen Brazil, the same thing, India. And three things is common to all these countries. We probably dodge a bullet. Could you imagine Yahya Jammeh with COVID-19? All these three countries, they are led by far-right extremists, India, Brazil, and also US. So Gambians, we should still consider ourselves lucky. We booted out the dictator before COVID-19 arrived. But since COVID arrived on our coast, 27,387,250 people got infected. Out of that, 894,466 dead. 19,456,185 are recovered. And so far, 7,036,589 people are living with COVID-19 infection. Out of that, 99% of the active cases, that is 6,976,464, are in mild condition, and 60,125 are critically ill with COVID-19. Across the world, past 24 hours, 111,199 people diagnosed with COVID-19, and out of that, 1,806 dead. Countries very close to the Gambia, only Senegal and Mali past 24 hours records are in, but their total overall numbers, Ivory Coast still leading 18,588 cases so far. Senegal so far 14,414 new cases, and Guinea-Conakry 9,798. And Senegal past 24 hours, they recorded 27 new cases. Mauritania, so far they recorded 7,142. Mali, so far 2,870, and past 24 hours they recorded 28 new cases. Sierra Leone so far recorded 2,054. Burkina Faso so far 1,452, and Liberia 1,307. It's worth mentioning Senegal's handling of COVID-19 has rave reviews, across the world, 36 countries that are evaluated, and that include America. Senegal came second. So this is something I hope Gambia can learn something from Senegal, and it is no shame to go and ask for Senegalese help to come and help. Maybe it's the same on our government, the way they handle things, but Gambians, for long run, we can learn lot of things from Senegal. We don't have COVID. Senegal have COVID, so the experience they learn from COVID, they built up on that. And one of that is a test kit they developed that you can know the result within 24 hours. What they call turnaround time in this kind of situation are very, very important. How quickly people know their results. We have seen Gambian complaining anybody who died now is COVID. Because what happened, if they take these people's samples, before the sample come back, they died already. And in the process, they infect so many people. That's why our morgues were overloaded, because they need to confirm if they are COVID positive or not. If they are positive posthumously, that means you have to involve the service of the Red Cross. If not, you give them back to their people. So this is the situation. This turnaround time is a big thing. That's why it's an issue. Test. That's what WHO said. And once you test, you isolate, you isolate and quarantine and treat. But Gambia, unfortunately, cannot do any of them to the max. We have seen the minister came out and said the test numbers plummet. But why the test numbers reduced significantly? He didn't say that. And the journalists didn't press on in that. But I think that's very important. Why all of a sudden we have very, very little tests? And if you don't test, you will know. That means the infection will continue to persist in the community. So that is COVID. Today I want was to be a little bit flexible, because next week, inshallah, we'll have one politician on the spot. That is Dr. Cisse will come. We will ask him about his policy about Komboland issues, environment, and all that. Then for today, Banka, Gambia government is disposing 37 million US dollars. They said to those who are financially challenged. How do you think that this is going to be determined in the Gambia? Which family are needed more than the other? And also, Combo is completely excluded. I went after somebody who is involved in this. I said, why Combo is not included? He said, well, this actually was written, since Yahya Jammeh time. When people write this, they have to appease the dictator. That's why Fonyi Infak is included. But what people don't understand or fail to put onto records, along the Combo Coast, the fishing sector is almost monopolized by the Chinese. The women are squeezed out. So that's something that's done out. If you go from Tujeren to Sanyan, there is hardly a place for gardening, vegetable gardening. This was the economic source of revenue for Combo women. That is taken away. So all of a sudden, you have this money coming, but Combo is excluded. And also, because I want you to go around, the question I want also to be answered is, physical cars. Gambians are corrupt, right? That's a fact. If physical cars to Gambian and go and disburse it, how is this possible? And how can we make sure that this money get to the right people? Start with you.
Well, good afternoon to Son. I hope you are doing well. And good afternoon to Dr. Conteh and Ahmed, your humble self. Good afternoon to you all. Look, I think what tends to happen with the Gambia's case is that there is no rhyme or reason to whatever we do. And because there is no planning. And in any situation where, as the good old adage goes, if you don't plan succeed, you will succeed. How does it go? If you don't plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. and this is what actually applies to the Gambia on so many levels, with the way we approach literally just about everything in our system. If we had the right record keeping mechanism in place, if we had a more systematic system in place, if we had a more robust technology, even the most basic technology in place, like a database system that is kept updated all the time, very simple database system, even access will give you that. I can go through a whole list of things that could have easily been done by the government, so that they can have a good record and a good data. My son always keeps pushing the idea that we have to have a data-driven approach to our issues, because data is the only way you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just guessing. You're just doing stuff, and this is why even corruption itself is so rife in our communities, because there is no mechanism to actually catch the thieves. There is no mechanism to make sure that people are careful, because they know there is nothing else, nothing to really track them down or their activities down. There is nothing. The way you do that is having a good, robust data system in place where you can go back and look. Because the problem is not necessarily dishing out money to Gambians. If governments are doing it all over the place, the United States just issued checks to everybody here back in July to literally the whole country, because of COVID-19. So you could do the same thing in the Gambia. But without the right and proper technology in place, you are literally going to take cash and hand it over to folks to go and distribute, which is, in your perception of yourself, the most dangerous idea you can ever think of, considering that in a country like that where we don't have, the schemes in place to stop people from stealing this money, there is nothing else that you can do. Now, the other problem that you have with this is, and you alluded to it, and that is the uneven distribution. And when you want to create resentment among populace, among people, there are several ways you can do it. One of them is uneven distribution of resources in general, and the other way to do it is to law that is unevenly applied. Because even with laws, no matter how stringent a law is, no matter how draconian it is, the moment it's applied across the board, in other words, it's fairly applied, it becomes a fair law. I mean, we can debate about the draconian nature of it, but in the end, you know that this is a fair law because it's applied evenly to everybody. It's only when you say, okay, Ahmed is exempted, DF Manneh is exempted, Banka Manneh is the one who's going to face the consequences of anything that breaks this law, and Dr. Conteh too will be punished. That's when the law becomes unfair, and I don't care how limited or how benign the law is. As long as it's not applied, any rule that is not fairly applied, it becomes an unfair rule. I mean, it becomes it should be null and void. This is what you have in this situation. If a Kombonka is sitting there and feeling and asking, well, why are they giving this money to others and not me, or somebody who lives in Kombo in general? Let me put it that way, because it's not typical the Kombonka that is being targeted here. Anybody who lives in the Kombo area, if they are not getting paid these payments, they're going to be sitting there and asking, but why not us? Why is this money crossing over to the other side, starting from and not really affecting us? And that's not, that doesn't, there's no rhyme or reason to that. How are you going to explain that? That, oh, those people that I say in those areas are the ones that are more affected by COVID-19? Are you kidding me? Really? COVID-19 impact is all over the Gambia. I mean, equally, people have lost their jobs, people have lost their sources of income, people have lost, their health, their wealth, everything. And that's all across the Gambia. What is affecting the person in Alunghar literally is affecting that family in Gunjur. This is not a scenario where you can sit there and rationalize this in any way, form, or shape that will justify giving a payout to this group of people in this region and not in the other region. So I don't care how they thought this out. It just doesn't make any sense. It's an uneven distribution of a national resource That basically even, it turns out, it didn't even come from the Gambia government. It was given by the UN, I believe, or some institution like that. But you, with that kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you clearly think through this whole process and see who are the people that are affected by this thing, and also have a database in place, a proper database. I said this here before, even before these monies or rice or whatever that was coming in. I said, there is an easy way, even with the current limitations that the government has as far as database management or keeping is concerned. And that is, you have a social security system in the Gambia where literally every employer or employee, for that matter, you are in a database somewhere. Those who are working in the tourism sector, there are hotels that hired them. I mean, even though they are let go, they've been let go. But I know the hotels have a database, or at least the names, because every month they do pay them. They used to pay them. So they know who is who, obviously. And every hotel in the Gambia, you can go to them and say, give us the database of all your employees that you have let go that are not currently working. Go to everyone and do exactly the same thing. So in a sense, you will be getting a good number of people that have lost their jobs in that country. Now, there are people who have not been working or who are just in the farming sector. So technically, there is not a database you can really have for those people. But then we have alcalos in every village and town. Now, you can go to these alcalos, okay, give us a database of all the people in this town who you have with you, in whatever way you have that, whether it's in paper form or whatever. From there, you go to the area council. Every compound that is in any locality, I'm hoping that they have a database of all the compounds in every locality. In other words, pull these databases from all these different sources. Somehow you can do that. And then you can take that database and then use that to say, okay, how do we now distribute this money in a way that is fair, reasonable, and considerate? Now, not everybody can get it, but at least you will have a systematic system in place that one can look at and say, you know what, there has been a serious attempt to do this in a fair way. But unfortunately, what you are telling me here, us here, Ahmed, I mean, just to sit and say, oh, we are going to start from Fonyi and then go up country. That's the one we go. Those are the people. Based on what? Based on what? You tell me. How did they come to such a conclusion? Because this should be on a need basis, not just some people in a. I mean, that family in Brufut may be suffering more than that family in, say, Fonyi. It's possible. Nobody can convince me otherwise. I'm just saying, you will have situations where these things are not necessarily. You cannot just have a cookie cutter approach and say people in this region are the ones suffering, so these other ones here are not suffering. Based on what? Based on what? It's not based on any rhyme or reason. So they need to go back to the drawing board and really think this thing through and say, okay, let's pull data from all these different, and these sources that I mentioned here, I'm sure there are even more other sources there that they can tap into. Pull those database, that information together, and then put it in a system where you can now go through it and say, okay, how do we really reach out to these communities, these individuals, these families, without really looking like we are being totally unfair? What do we do? How do we distribute this thing? What scheme do we put in place? Does it have to be monetary payment, or does it have to be some other scheme? I mean, like for instance, if it is compound rates, you can look at these compounds and say, okay, every compound that is in, say, in a particular locality, or you go through a compound list of, and in the Gambia pretty much know each other, and then say, okay, compound belonging to Ahmed Manjang, he lives in the United States. I'm sorry, but he doesn't deserve to be paid $2,500 or whatever. But that compound belonging to Banka Manneh, he lives here, he works here according to this database, and we are pretty much sure he can use it for $2,500 bailout. This is how you go through this and systematically go through this for some time, and then come up with a scheme that is going to look like at least an attempt was made to make it as fair and equitable as possible. But to just, like I said, you boom, okay, from here to there, that's it, from there to there, that's it. It should be tailored to the individual needs, not into just because it's arbitrary, I mean, based on some region that you live in. This doesn't make any sense, Ahmed. They need to go back to the drawing board and do this as fairly as possible. Because otherwise, in the end, what is potentially could happen, you'll pay money to Dave Manneh in Jarasoma, when in fact he doesn't even need it possibly. But then Dr. Conteh in Faraba needs the money really, really, really bad. Bad luck for him because he lives in this side of the country, and that's the only reason why he couldn't get it. We need to go back to database systems, evidence-based approaches, making sure that whatever we do, we have made a serious attempt to use database and then pull the information together, use an evidence-based approach, something that's based on rhyme and reason, something that you can look at and say, I am making an honest attempt to do the right thing here. In Gambia's case, that's going to be difficult. I get it, because there are too many challenges. One, you don't have all the information, income information on people like you have in the West. Like I said, most of these people are farmers, so they don't technically, government may not have a database on how much money they actually make a year. These are all challenges that they are facing. But then at the end of the day, if you make a serious attempt, you're not going to get it right, but you can come really, really close to doing the right thing. And I think most people can excuse that, considering our limitations as far as information is concerned in that country. This is how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that extensive analysis, and I believe the right people are listed into this. Prof. Conteh, as an accountant, a money man, how can you describe this as an accountant taking physical cash, going around and disbursing it? What's your take on this, and also excluding a region, an entire region from this, because maybe economically they are well off. They don't fit the needy criteria, even though we're not sure how that is, how they arrive at that conclusion. Thank you.
Yeah, well, they are inviting corruption, fraudulent activities, because you cannot just give cash to an individual and try to distribute that to the public. So that alone, I think, money may not go to the intended recipient. I also want a clarification on the number. You said 831,000 households or people. Is this
83,000 households.
83,000 households?
Yes.
So the Gambia has more than 83,000 households. So this is fitting.
They said needy households.
Well, how were they able to determine that from Bullock all the way to Koina, those people are needy, and from Khartoum to Banjul all the way to Sumakunda, Combo East, those people are not needy. I just don't understand. But again, I don't think we should blame the government. We should also blame our representatives. Yeah. Because anything that goes on around Combo, we sit idle and we allow the status quo to take effect. So I think it is time for us to engage our elected officials and try to engage them on this topic, because if they include a region, and that they have been excluding Combo for a very long time since Sadauda's government, and this has. So do you see, when we talk about the issues in the Gambia, we look at the fact that this is not tribe-based, it's region-based. So we should try to engage our elected officials and ask the rationale behind such. And in fact, I don't even understand, was this decided by the governor of West Coast region? And if that is the case, then he probably played regionalism on that. But I just don't understand that, especially at a time when we all seen what's going on with the floods in the Gambia. It's very troubling. But again, I want to put the blame on our elected officials, and these elected officials, to me, in my view, has no political boundary. So again, this is a problem. Whenever the status quo fails to do something in the Gambia, another political party takes advantage of it. And we are talking about inclusiveness, coexistence. This is the time that we should engage each other. So having said that, last week when we talked about this, I was of the view that I've taken a very neutral role, because I think that we need political education in the Gambia, to a sense that, because this is political education. As a result, that we in our region in Combo, we've been kept, marginalized for a long time. And when we talk, nothing happens. I can even go and digress to you. Even the University of the Gambia, they have the audacity to say that from the university ground all the way to Basori belongs to the University of the Gambia. And so they are lying to our people, saying that the land in Combo is actually belongs to the government. So, and then when you call the alcalo or the chief, they are scared to talk, because they believe that if they agree with Dr. Conteh, who is opposition, their job's going to be in jeopardy. So again, I think that we need to also engage our elected officials to see what we can do to solve the problem. This is not a tribal thing. This is a regional thing. So they are looking at the rest of the country to benefit. But we in Combo, where one can say that close to 60% of the population lives in there, I don't support this idea. And I'm going to try to reach out to the press secretary at the State House and ask her what is the rationale behind this. And I also encourage all of you to do the same. I do that constantly. Anytime we have something, I write to her and ask her, but why should we do this? Even, for instance, the chief of Combo Central. If you can reinstate the chief in Gunjur, why not reinstate the chief in Brikama? And if you say that he was Yajame support, I would say, then how about the chief in Jarasoma, who was actually more loyal to Yajame than the former chief of Brikama? So these are things that we should do. So again, I'm saying to you that when it comes to Gambia's issues, let's leave politics alone. Let's talk about the fact, because the average person in Gunjur, the average person in Brufut suffers the same way. Because if you look at the Brufut every single day, folks announce burial, death of people, and it's very tormenting. So again, I say that our engagement in this program, I think, is uplifting the people. We need to educate our people not to give blind loyalty to any political party. Let's try to defend the rights of Combo people, the rights of every Gambian. But again, I'm going to end this by saying that we in Combo, we've been suffering since 1960, when Sardada became member of parliament for Combo East. And during his tenure, he never appointed a single Kombonka as Minister of Local Government and Lands. So we see that we are being marginalized, and it's time for us to speak. But we're going to speak in one voice, and we're going to advocate for coexistence, regardless of our political affiliation. So I stop right there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, as usual, for that brilliant contribution. Guys, just to the viewers, this particular platform, this day, this time, the topic of this discussion is Salah, the turning point for the people of Combo. I think you've seen earlier on in the year when the paratroopers went to Sukuta and start demolition, and they demolished only the locals' property. But those who got those lands unscrupulously, structures remain to stand. So today there's a news this week which the government is celebrating, that they are distributing cash, to 83,000 households across the country. These exclude Combo. To them, Combo don't fit the needy criteria. Then we don't need the cash, and everybody is affluent. So we're discussing that and a lot more issues. Dave, what's your take on this? Do you think Barrow will use this as a political war chest, to go and entice or induce the electors, because he feel maybe he cannot buy the people of Combo?
Look, you're giving Combo people too much credit. But anyway, Mr. Manjang, thank you so much. And obviously to my dad and and Dr. Conteh as well. Thank you. I think you can just see the problems we keep on having in the Gambia. This lack of information, informing the general public. I mean, for all we know, they actually have a genuine reason. I don't know how they can explain it to me, but probably they have a genuine reason. Probably. At least try and give us the reasons. Like my dad said, give us the rhymes and reason. Rationalize with the people. Say, this is why we're doing this. But if you do things arbitrarily, so what happens? Like, people reach their own conclusions. So some people obviously feel excluded. Why am I being excluded? Then you say, why, you know, like what's his name? Balotelli will say, why always me? So combo people will say, why always me? Why are you always missing us out? What's going on here? Why are we always been excluded? But anyway, you know, this is a serious matter, really. I mean, we can joke about it, but it's very, very serious because it's all about perception as well. So, like you rightly pointed out, that it's been unfair. So maybe, like I said, maybe they have a genuine reason. But if you spoke to an insider who is telling you that this been set up during Yahya Jammeh's time, I just cannot believe anybody can actually use Yahya Jammeh as a reason for anything in the Gambia. Really, I mean, the whole enterprise of the new Gambia is to undo everything Yahya Jammeh is dealt with. You know, Yahya Jammeh is the dustbin. So it cannot use Yahya Jammeh to rationalize anything. I just find that so amazing. And it's not only that person, by the way. Lots of people speak to the Gambia, you know, they'll bring Yahya Jammeh from like our whole national enterprise, the whole endeavor of the Gambia is to move away from Yahya Jammeh, to undo all the wrongs he's done. So nobody can use that as a justification. But anyway, probably get a little bit more philosophical here. But they said if you shoot for the moon, at least if you miss, you can land with the stars. You see, aim very, very high. If you don't reach there, at least you know you've tried. You might not reach the ultimate aim, but at least you go halfway. But our people don't do that in a whole lot of ways. So you can go to what Madadu said about this lack of not having a functioning, even automated digital databases. I mean, they've got various databases everywhere. Even pieces of papers are databases. So what we have is like they're not consolidated, and they're not digitized, and they're not automated. And some of these don't take too much money. It's all a matter of thinking outside of the box. You know, innovation. You know, being innovative, and then we can achieve a whole lot of things. So if they can go back to us and say this is the reason why so and so region are getting this help, so and so region is not getting this help, then we can argue about it. We can say, well, hold on a minute. You can't just say people in Combo or people in Banjul or people in Bakau don't have it because they are wealthier relatively. But there are pockets of poverty within Bakau, pocket of poverty within Banjul, pocket of poverty within Serekunda. So how you justify giving it to only people in Ilyasa or Jarasoma or Wuli or wherever it is? So that's why we always need to have a national dialogue. It's important Gambians get used to this national dialogue. And I also was trying to invite somebody here for another week. Unfortunately, we don't get there yet. But I think we need to try and promote these civil society organizations in the Gambia who are willing to take the government to court, force them to tell the public why they reach some decisions. This is it's not like a state secret. Tell us why. Why do you have to do it this way? Tell us. I think we need to force them to actually tell us the reasons why they do things. I mean, a lot of things will happen in Gambia, like you have government and private partnerships. Nobody knows the details of them. You never see the paperwork. All you see is like, oh, the government is going into a partnership with somebody, but it's no accountability. Nobody questions them. So it's the whole plethora of things in the Gambia that are not done correctly. So this is just one example of that, really. I mean, COVID-19, as you can say, is the largest and biggest social experiment the world has ever seen. Everything, every facet of our life is changing right now. So a lot of countries, even like us, who are poor, this is the opportunity and the time for us to actually up our game a little bit. We're not competing with anybody, but at least just be a little bit more innovative. Yeah, just be a little bit more creative, and we can go far. But you just don't see this creative thinking back home. No innovation in thinking. Don't forget about technology. Even forget about thinking that okay, it's going to cost a whole lot of money to implement some databases over. Just the rudimentary database you have in the Gambia. Every kid that goes to school has got a school register. Yeah, every school education have got regions. So those kids come from households. There's a database there already. Yeah, so you just need to augment it, need to digitize it, need to consolidate it. That's what is not happening. So going back to what my dad said, but once again, like I said, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and said, okay, they have a valid reason. All they need to do and tell us why they do that. Why they said, oh, so and so section of the country are going to have some financial aid, or whatever you want to call it, but the rest aren't. So maybe they got valid reasons. Come and tell the people, discuss with the people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, very much once again. That's not fair, and it's open doors to corruption, it makes it actually easy. But one thing also we couldn't, nobody can miss. In fact, in Dakar yesterday, a couple of days ago, they have a quarter of their annual rainfall in 24 hours. And Gambia is not far behind, and we've seen houses going down in the combos to the provinces. But this is almost an annual occurrence now. It seems we always see it coming. But why it keep happening? Banker.
Well, I mean, as far as the rain situation is concerned, that one has been a generational problem now, and worsened obviously by the climate change. So we may not necessarily be fully responsible for what is happening on that end, because really the biggest polluters in the world are not African countries, as you know. They are in fact European countries and Western countries, and in general, America, Europe. I can go. You know what I'm saying. So those who are polluting the environment, those Western countries, really need to go back and revisit this whole climate thing. And Africa itself should be able to take these countries or the major polluters to court. And I'm sorry, there is an instrument at the international level that can be used to really address this, because this is not necessarily a Gambia problem. It's a problem all over these developing countries, where now in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, all these places, when rain falls now, it's always a disaster. Because now the rains are heavier, they are bigger, they are more destructive, the more water, more like you said. I mean, if you're getting a quarter of your yearly rainfall in one day, not many countries can sustain such a situation. Even countries that are developed could easily find themselves in a flood situation that can get really, really nasty. So we are not fully responsible for this problem. But however, on our end, what our governments need to do, again, is to really reach out to each other and then go to the international level to take these countries to court that are polluting the environment and make sure that they fund the disaster that they are creating to mitigate the disaster that their pollution is causing. The other thing that they need to do at the national level also, we don't have any drainage system. I don't even think that's in our psyche. When we think about planning, if you will, I don't even think our planners really think about drainage systems, sewer systems, and that kind of thing. If you look at, say, Europe, even UK, let's use UK as an example. UK, or London for that matter, has a very robust sewer drainage system where literally there's a whole underground infrastructure. A whole underground infrastructure that looks like and whatever, that is geared toward doing nothing but managing sewer, water, things of that nature. It's built to do that. And it came out of a bitter experience, because back in the day, they have that kind of drainage system or sewer system, if you want to call it that. This thing was an incubation place for all kinds of diseases. So it was through some major disaster, where you have plagues and cholera and serious, so many people died because of these things in Europe. It's not even funny. And since then, the Europeans really began to realize, look, with something like this, you might take it as seriously as you take like building roads and other infrastructures. You have to go underground and build an infrastructure over there that's going to deal with these things. If you don't, every year we're going to be dealing with this mess. When they are constructing Banjul, for instance, the Banjul road construction that is going on, I don't even think the whole idea of making sure that they have a system underneath these roads was even, because it's not present, it's not there. So they're just building roads without having an infrastructure under those roads to handle, the floods. So if you have major flooding in Banjul again, these brand new roads that we are all touting, everybody's celebrating, I would be gone in a minute. So it would become pointless building these roads. So what I'm saying is, we need to go back to the drawing board and plan our cities better. And in the United States here, that's what they had to do. A city like Chicago was literally lifted off the ground. That's what they had to do to Chicago. They literally lifted the city of Chicago. Can you imagine that? I know that sounds like a crazy idea, but that's what they did. In the Gambia too, We can do the same thing, but it has to take political will. It has to take taking our situation very seriously, governance very, very seriously, making sure that we have big ideas, big ideals, and big efforts, and big upliftings, and big serious government to really think about these things. We cannot do it through corruption. You cannot do it by literally having even our healthcare infrastructure. If you look at it, that's already a disaster. Women are dying in our hospitals, major hospitals, because of negligence. So if you are working and operating at that level, there is no, as we say in the United States, that you will be thinking about a sewer system that is going to deal with this kind of massive rain that will come about. So we are in for a rough ride, because this is only going to get worse. I can tell you this. That's the bad news. These rains, and as the kind of disaster, only going to get worse. So the last year was bad. This year is worse, and next year is going to be even more. This is how it's going to go. So it's about time our government starts saying, let's start thinking big. Let's start thinking smart. Let's start doing the big things. And that requires us really, really, really getting ourselves. We have to leapfrog ourselves into the 21st century. Unfortunately, we are operating still at the 18th century level. We need to leapfrog into the 21st century. And that requires some serious leadership, Ahmed. Serious leadership. Yeah. Otherwise, with what I'm seeing in the Gambia, mediocrity, and how we are approaching the governance, and corruption and money, and relying on foreign aid, and allowing Chinese to come and really take over our places and destroy our environments, and no economic activity, no industries being built. Julbru is already gone. We don't have any even industries anymore. I can go through the whole laundry list of massive things that are needed to be done right now, like yesterday, and we don't even have in place, because we have a serious governance problem. We still don't have a serious leadership in place. So where do you begin with this? Like I said, this is an environmental problem. 90% of it is environmental. What we need to do is take it seriously, and the governments ganging up together, confronting the Western nations that are polluting the environment, and at the local level, taking governance much more seriously and thinking big. We need big ideas, big efforts, big things. This mini stuff, we go and build a road in Banjul. Yay, we just have a road in Banjul. Go build a conference center on the Senegambia Highway. Hey, we just have a conference center. You build some road in from Sukuta to Brufut. Yay, we just have a road. Look, this is not development. We are kidding ourselves. We are not ready for prime time. Countries are doing that in their subdivisions, and they are not celebrating it. Subdivisions, neighborhood level. If you go to, you all know this, in Europe or in America, every subdivision, when I say subdivision, meaning neighborhood, has roads built all around the place, and yet people don't even talk about it. And every day they are building roads in those neighborhoods. But for us, a simple road from Banjul to Brikama is like a big celebration. Everybody's celebrating like development is here now. We don't understand that's nothing. So what I'm saying is we need big dreamers, big ideas, big efforts, big upliftings, big governmental approaches to really do the big things. Otherwise, trust me, we are just kidding ourselves. We are going nowhere. Sad thing is, only the poor man is going to suffer more. When this thing comes, we have families that lose everything. They are, homes just come crashing down, and they are left with nothing. And they go back again and build it again. The next year, it comes back again. They get flooded once again. They are repeatedly having to face this mess. Something that is not a fault of their own, but their governments and other countries all around the world that are not taking responsible for their own actions. This is really a serious. In fact, this is on a level, Ahmed, that is so bad that I cannot even sit here and describe it, because it's a major problem. And sad to say, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better, really.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Taking the big polluters to the court, Prof. Conteh, what about the victims' own contribution? Like past 22 years, we have seen explosion of people settling in waterways in the Combo, the Kotu, Kuares, around that end, and Bundum, Farokono, Talinding, and all that, and Ibo town. This Jawara's time, they were properly controlled. Even this rainy season, our environmental group on the ground are fighting with people. They are cutting the mangrove. backfilling them and building structure on them. What do you think the government can do? Don't you think it's about time, finding place for these people somewhere and relocating them from these waterways? Because at the end of the day, it's the government that have to come and spend on them, feed them, shelter them temporarily, and once the rains are down, they are back in there again. What do you think our government can do to reverse this dangerous cycle of self-inflicted catastrophe?
Well, I think the government should curtail that. I want to go back when I was going to school, and I said in Bakau that you can walk from Cape Point Beach all the way down to the police barracks. So when there were mangroves there, they were all removed. So you see how now when you go, I know Dave can attest that if you go to Bakau now from Cape Point, there is no way that you can walk freely there to go to the same direction that they probably you walked and I did. So we have no environmental control. And then I'm also want to add to the Kachikal Faros in Bakau. My own first cousin died few years ago because the place was flooded and she got swept by the water. So we have no controls. I even asked Dr. Ture. I said, can you check and see when you are going to Cambodia, the roads on the left side, I bet you have plenty of water sitting there. He says even vehicles cannot go through there. So let's go back again to Khartoum, where I would like to know right now in Khartoum, after these heavy rains, what actually has happened to the streets there, coming all the way down to Brikama. You are from Gunjur. You know that when you are going to Gunjur, it's as if you are ascending, and then when you're coming from Gunjur, you are declining. So again, all this problem, mangroves being removed in the Gambia rivers, and then again we have this black sand mining issue that we know that when our people, when they tap the black sand, the level of the surface ground it decreases. So here you have the water sitting here, and then you are doing black sand mining, you are decreasing the level. So when we have heavy rain, all of us are from the village. I bet you went to the river during the rainy season. You notice that the water in the river was warmer than the water outside. So which means that it's a contraction of heat. So that is why you see when we have heavy rain, what happens? The water actually flushes out. I would like to know, even in Banjul, whether during these heavy rains, whether the water came all the way to the roads. So these are things that we should try to talk about. And Combo has been affected. And I bet if you see per capita wise, the level of destruction of houses in coastal Combo probably is even more than the other side of Combo that is on the other side of the river. I was just thinking, the other day I asked, can someone check whether we have fresh water in Tonya Taba, Jara? Tonya Taba actually is the middle of Gambia, not Jara Soma. So I was just wondering, look at all the fresh water coming in that's going to be mixed with salt water, diluted. I wish we can have a way whereby somewhere around Brikama we can have canals just simply to get the water, instead of going to the river, to go to a canal. Now, if you live in urban Combo, water is a problem. So farming also is another problem. So somebody wrote that the Gambia has opportunity in water, but the Gambia doesn't know how to use that water to increase agricultural productivity. So these are things that we can. I was talking to Mr. Singate. I told him, I said, if we have permission from the neighboring countries, meaning Guinea and Senegal, can we go in by Wuli area, going to Sandu, and then coming to Fuladu and so forth? I say, is it possible that we can increase the depth of the surface of water? I say if we can do that, maybe we'll have more fresh water flowing in from the Furajalan mountains to River Gambia. And when I was a child, fresh water used to be in Tonyataba. But now people are telling me that fresh water stops, it starts where sometimes somewhere around Kuntaur. So yes, this rain probably a lot of people suffered, but we can also use it as a blessing if we have enough capacity to store water. But to see all this water coming on in the Gambia and we don't know how to store it, it's very devastating. So for me, all of us grew up on the farm, and you know that in the combos now, I told Mr. Jambang, I said, you see, coming from Jamba, from his town, Tembuje, going towards our town, I said, all the grass you saw on the plots of land, you think those areas are for sale. I said, all of them have been sold. So you see that when we talk about this rainfall and the inability of our people to go back to the farm, that Jame, you may hate him on that, but I think that if we increase agricultural productivity, we probably wouldn't have to depend on remittances. And now when we look at the effect of COVID, where remittances went down, I think is very serious. Yes, I do believe that the government of the Gambia should try to have some kind of regulation for people not to settle in furrows, because I saw firsthand how flood really is. I saw a train in the water going with no engine on, just the water pushing it. So flood is something that is very serious. And then again, I am very sorry to say this, but after this flood, we're going to have a lot of health issues, because within 24 to 48 hours, if you have standing water in your house, and even if you take it out, you really need to come back in there. Like in the US, most of the houses are built on wood. They literally have to go and remove all of that. But now for us, we build with what, cement. So you're going to have the residue buried in the house, and it's going to create some lead issues for our people. And I'm telling you, I do believe that within few months, we're going to see a lot of people dying in places where there was plenty of water standing. In fact, water that went into their houses, and in fact, their furniture too. If your furniture is covered with water, it's no good anymore. Your bed is no good anymore. You have to throw it away. So these are things that we seriously have to do. But having limited capital in our country, and the Gambia being so polarized based on politics, no proper planning. South Africa's government didn't do any proper planning when it comes to urban planning. The old road that used to be Transgambia Road, that used to be from our side, meaning the other side by the river, and for you the coastal side, you all had road that will take you navigate all the way to Kafuta, and then it will go back. It will go inside Kafuta to meet the other side, and that road will take you all the way to Basse. But what happened on the South Africa's government when they had the new road? They abandoned the old Transgambia road, and now that place is just used as a river. I bet if you go out now, you won't be able to navigate your vehicle. So again, this government, in my view, I don't know what happened, but we need to kind of engage. And if we have future government, and I think these are things that we need to push. So criticizing a government doesn't mean that you are un-Gambian, you are anti-Gambia. You are trying to do the best you can. And I'm going to end here to say that for us who are in diaspora, the effect or the impact of COVID-19 actually has affected our remittances. And if our people do rely on us for that monthly remittance, it's going to be a long way for our people to survive in the Gambia. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. You mentioned lot of important issues. For Barrow's government, I think that's a write-off. We should start planning for next. This 5 years is a complete write-off. Yeah, Gunjur actually sloped towards the sea. But what happened when CSC built that coastal road? They don't put waterways in the right place behind people's compound. As kids, water never stand anywhere in Gunjur. In fact, as kids, we used to go to the forest to swim. But what happened now when water comes from the town, it hits the tar road, it comes back again because the road at some point is over 2 meters high. No waterway. So the water will hit it and go back, to time. You see people's structures collapsing. It never happened before. So as you said, there is no proper planning. When water come in, need to pass and go into the furrows. That's not happening anymore. And also, you talk about the disease is going to be an explosion of it. You mentioned about beds getting wet and moldy and all that. But what about the raw sewage? Most of these places, they still use the outside pit latrines, and water get into it, it falls to the surface, and the raw sewage starts spreading everywhere. I've seen also in Senegal yesterday, one of them was in Casamas, entire herds of cattle been swept away, in full speed. And also I've seen kids in Dakar. You know how our kids are, they like to play in the water. Flash flood, one of them just went like a flash. You hear people, oh, that one is gone. Then these orders, they got, hung onto, I think it was a old tire or what. So only I don't know how many kids will die, in Dakar or Gambia, all over the places. These are all issues we should hold our politicians, our governments to account. As you said, this is again the diaspora providing the leadership. Away, even though we are considered the seventh or whatever, eight regions, but when it comes to major decision making, we are not. But I can tell you, we are holding that government to account, and that government is taking its cues from what the diaspora is saying. Just look at things that is happening. They will change because, oh, the diaspora is shouting. Dave,
Yeah.
yes, what's your take on this? Then we go to the final topic, which Banka just mentioned little about. The maternal deaths and other things. That will be our last one. But on these flooding issues we have right now in the Gambia. But before that, I will read from one of the commentators, Sami AK Flex. We need leadership. We need leadership with vision. Leadership is also at the center of effective utilization of our resources. If you have men and women who knows what are to be done, they will lead you in the right directions. Unfortunately, we have people, we put them there. President Barrow was very honest when he initially come. When they asked him, are you going to run? He said, well, you have a strong team. But then he ended up sacking all of them. Now he went and surround himself with psychophants who were fighting agents. So that's why you have a problem. At least if you don't have the capacity, you surround yourself with capacity, people with capacity, and foresight will paper the cracks, as they say in England. But you are blind. You went and surround yourself with the blind and dump like all these political advisors. I don't know how they end up there, but too many of them. I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's just terrible. So, Dave, your talk on this flooding issue, what we can do, the country.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Maja. Thanks, my dad and Dr. Conte. Thank you, guys. I think we can never move away from Gambia's problem, our major
Yeah.
problem. So if you make a decision tree or mind mapping, there's one thing at the core of it all the time is poor governance. Poor governance, poor governance. It affects the roads you mentioned, the roads they built on Coastal Road. I saw them in Bufoot. It's not only that in some places though they are so high they don't have like places for water for the rainwater to pass. It's even that the layer is so thin. It's so thin. I think it's only few inches thick. Yeah, and then at the edges they don't have any concretes at the edges, so the edges of the roads keep on falling off. So if they build a road which is like let's say 10 meters wide, within 10 years it becomes 6 meters wide because there's nothing on the edges. And it's the tarmac or the cement, whatever, or the concrete is very, very thin. So all our problems all keep on going back to this poor governance. And these are urban rural migration. People are basically wrecking devastation on the national environment, cutting down the mangroves because they want to live in what's it called, Kalindin Kunjang or Fajikunda or even Lameng, those ends, because everybody wants to move to Combo because again goes to bad governance. Yeah, we don't have policies that work. Policies that you have to have policies for a state whereby 50 years, you think about 50 years in advance. So these people, when they build structures, they're only thinking of today or 5 years down the line. So this is the major problem we have. And few months back, I think it's a few months back, you had one. Is it Lamin? Is it Tamba? So Lamin Tamba, Mr. Manjang, you had on your program. Was it Tamba?
Yeah, Lamin Tamba. Yeah, and he's coming next Tuesday, inshallah, on my environmental program.
Yeah, this guy had some brilliant ideas of what they can do, building levees in Combo. In what's it called? I think he was using the example of Talinin Kunjanto Fajikunda. How could they use levees and this? How they can actually harvest this water and then it can be used. It's amazing. So some of those, they don't need a lot of money, and this guy did his own study, so there's a lot of Gambians doing that. So when he goes to Dr. Conteh is talking about the Gambian River, I'm on a mailing list called the Gambian Scholars mailing list, and one Dr. What's his name, Malandin Jete, one time he brought a very brilliant contribution there. These are people who studied the Gambia's environment and stuff, and what they can do with the with the water, the salinity of the water. All those been studied by brilliant Gambians. They just never been implemented. So Gambia's problems, social problems, Gambians have actually got solutions to them. Yeah, Gambians are innovative enough, they're creative enough to find solutions. The solutions are not being implemented because there's no political leadership there. But the Gambians themselves as individuals are doing brilliant work. And on that the same Gambian Scholars mailing list, this Dr. What's his name? Dr. Gajigo, I think he actually brought this conversation in because involved in some farming back home, even though he's an economist. And during that conversation, obviously, Dr. What's it called? Dr. Malandin Jete commented, and brilliant perspective. Another guy, Dr. Katim Toure, I think he was his name. And so you can see how much Gambians have actually studied their environment and how much they've actually spent efforts, studying their people, bringing up theories, like practical solutions that never get implemented. So it always goes back to our main problem of poor governance. This is where we go. So everything goes back to that. The main road not working properly, no levees there, no proper water system, no drainage system, everybody moving to Combo. It all goes back to the same problem. So until we can fix these fundamentals, we just basically not going anywhere. We have to fix the fundamentals. The fundamentals are in there. So this is the problem. But anyway, I told you, what's it called? Dr. Conteh was talking about this road issue. Like, for example, they had a road which was quite good, but it never got implemented. Again, we go back to the same thing. So you can never get away from the Gambia's problem. You can never get away from poor governance. And whether it's that administration before we are born or Jambia's time or today, it's the same problem. Poor governance, they're not providing enough information to people. Everything is so haphazard. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. So it's not even like I don't know if this is very controversial, but I have this saying. I said, Gambia is the place where you got lions hanging off the coattails of donkeys. Yeah, I know it's very controversial, but you got very brilliant minds in the Gambia. But the political leaders seem so poor. So these are the lions, but who's leading them donkeys? So it need to change. You need to have the lions leading the donkeys at the back. You're not going to make progress. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dave, thank you very much for ending that there. But don't you think that's where the intelligentsia or the intellectuals are letting themselves and the entire country down? That's why I'm going to say this again. Next election should be more than party politics. I think it's about time we all go in there and do the heavy lifting and the dirty work, to make sure that that's changed, because we cannot let the sycophants and continue to control the narratives. People need to come and take responsibility, because I think Gambia is at a crossroad. If we mess up next election, we are doomed. But coming to our next topic, which Banka mentioned that maternal death is all-time high in the Gambia. And I was actually predicting this since I started campaigning against Golden Lead, that our diet are going to be so poor, so deficient in protein. The most was affected section of the population are the women, especially the pregnant ones and also the kids. Because when women are pregnant, they need top-notch diet. That's not widely available in the Gambia. But what was widely available in the Gambia, especially along the combos, is fresh fish. And these fresh fish supplement most of their essential diets. Now that has been taken away from them and has been, processed into powders, been exposed by the Chinese. Last year, I was in Gambia between July 29 and October 15th. In Gunjur Eron, we have 5 maternal deaths. 4 of them within Gunjur. The fifth one was a Gunjurian in Sukuta. And I was in Basse also for 2 years before I traveled to Saudi Arabia. I camped around the hospital. In fact, I say inside the hospital. But almost all the day, there is a maternal death. So this is a national issue. What COVID did is bringing everything into sharp focus. Because this lady that died the other day, she was suspected of having COVID. And the nurses at the health center, they did the right thing, that you cannot bring a suspected COVID into our only major referral hospital. But where are the structures? Where are the well-equipped ambulances that should be looking after this lady, while they are moving along between these? So we get out of this, because the healthcare facility was never up to scratch anyway. So it has a massive shock of COVID-19. I think it's almost completely collapsed. People are going to get sick and sicker. There is going to be more mosquitoes. There is going to be foodborne diseases. There is going to be a lot of waterborne disease in the coming weeks. How do we navigate through this?
We can discuss these issues all day, all night, Ahmed. It all boils down to the same thing back again. We'll always circle back to the same issue.
Before that, Banka, before that, there is a comment here I need to read. First, I'll say, Bakari, thank you, and also Nyancho Malik Mani. Njudukinde said, all you English learners are 6 and 9s.
Our dads in the Gambia used to say that all the time. But it's true, because our countries are not destroyed by what I say, illiterates, people who didn't go to school. It's actually destroyed by people who supposedly should know better, that they got all the education. Our forefathers spent money on us, sent us to school, suffered for us to get what they call Western education. And when we got it, we made a fool of ourselves by literally destroying these countries. So when because they didn't like the British being in charge of us, when they kicked the British out, they educated their kids so that the kids can take over, believing that these are our own kids, they will do the right thing. And we turned out to be a big disappointment. This is what has happened. So when somebody says the English learners are 6 and 9, I think they have a point. Well, but coming back to the main issue, Ahmed, we can talk about this issue all day, but we will circle back to the same point and the same problem, which is that we have a poor governance structure. And what that has allowed to happen is that nothing in that country is planned. We just don't plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And the planning is always a problem. So everything we touch, everything we do, everywhere we go, every issue, that's why you can talk about healthcare. You find the same problem there. You go to agriculture, the same problem. You go to education, the same problem. You go to, every literally thing that actually affects our lives. If you go there, you will find literally the same problem, because it all boils down to the same issue. For instance, this COVID-19 issue and the lady situation. What would have taken care of this situation is if they had built, like other countries have done, built a dedicated place for nothing but for people who are suspected of having COVID to go to for testing. This is why if you go to New York City, when they had an explosion of COVID-19, what did they do? They didn't rely on their hospitals. They literally hoarded up and built these tents, big tents, all around the place. In fact, some tents were built next to the hospitals so that people who are coming to the hospitals with maybe, with malaria or flu or whatever you call it, Literally, we led right into these big tents first for testing before they are allowed into the hospital, so that the hospitals don't, have the infections. Because most of the people that they are already vulnerable, they are sick, so they are already vulnerable. So you have these big tents literally built right not far from the hospitals, so that when people came to hospitals for other emergencies, like I said, for heart attack or whatever you call it, literally they were taken into these tents first, get tested, and all these things certified to be brought into the hospitals. So if you have a plan in place that is going to address a situation like this, people will not have to go to the hospitals, and the hospital officials or doctors thinking that maybe the person has COVID and not want to touch them or not allow them to. If they don't allow these people to get into the hospital to get treatment, then where else will they go? You are leaving these people to go and die on their, to just go and die. And that is not an option. That's an abomination. That's just so tragic. It's not even funny. And that's literally what happened with this lady's case. I know they are trying to shift the blame to the hospital nurses and doctors, but this is not their fault. This is not their problem. All these people are trying to do is to protect themselves and their patients in their hospital, which they have a fiduciary duty to do. So what should have taken care of this was government should have had a dedicated place, like a big tent or tents all around town, where literally when something like this happens, you can say, okay, before you take this lady to the hospital, let's take her to the this center first, where she's going to be tested, and obviously, oxygen tanks will be there to make sure that you can keep her alive, or something that's going to keep patients alive when they come with an emergency situation, because you build it for an emergency situation where people literally that have an emergency. It will be the middle point where they can go first to get tested, and while they keep themselves stabilized, and then carried off into the hospital if they find out that they are safe. But if you don't have that, people will go to the hospital if they are sick. Now, and that's the other disaster that is unfolding right now. Yes, this lady has become the poster child of what has been happening. Because if you notice, because of COVID-19, diabetes and all these other major diseases that are actually killing people in the Gambia, we are relegated to the back burner. So people who are suffering those diseases don't have anywhere else to go, because they go to the hospitals, maybe he or she has COVID. And so the suspicion sets in. What happens? They are either denied treatment, or they are not treated the right way, because they are already looked at as a suspect, when in fact they are suffering from malaria or from diabetes or from another ailment that is literally just as dangerous or maybe more dangerous than COVID-19 itself. So this is the situation. So in other words, because of COVID-19, so many people found themselves in between a rock and a hard place. You are sick with malaria, with some other serious disease. You literally cannot go to the hospitals because you are a suspect already. So those people don't even end up going to the hospital anymore. So they are dying in their homes. This is what has happened. I know this lady's case became really, it has, what I would say, just exposed, like you rightly said, Ahmed, what already is a disaster unfolding. COVID-19 pushed all these other diseases to the back burner that have already been killing people before COVID-19. And that shouldn't be the case. Because of COVID-19 now, other people with other diseases have to die. Then what really are we mitigating here? What lives are we saving? So again, because of lack of proper planning, we have a situation on our hands where literally people are dying because of COVID-19, who are not, in fact, their situation has nothing to do with COVID-19. It's just because they are caught up in this COVID-19 mess. So for those people, bad luck, I'm sorry, you are going to die because COVID-19 is around. So nobody is going to take care of you because they would suspect that you have COVID-19. Some other scheme must have had to be put in place to make sure that people continue to get the treatment that they need without having to worry about this COVID, get caught up in that mess. And with that, you have to set up a parallel process. A process where you are saying, okay, we don't want COVID-19 people into the hospitals. So what we'll do is we'll have a middle ground point where those people will be screened. If you come, you are going to be getting the treatment that you suspect you literally is your problem. While at the same time, before we allow you into the major hospitals that you are already tested and you are and you are clean. So you'll be doing two things at the same time, both giving the person the treatment that they need, while at the same time making sure that you don't bring them into the hospitals without getting tested, so that they don't come in and infect the other people that are already in the hospitals. So this is the scheme that should have been in place, and it never was in place. So like I said, yes, the lady her case is what we know, and it's sad. But so many other people are dying in that country because of COVID-19, and their death has nothing to do with COVID-19 in of itself. So the maternal deaths, which are a whole different story, because so many women are dying in that country. I mean, if I tell you, and I'm so Mohammed, you know about this, just because of not having this vacuum extractor, right? Is that what you call it? The vacuum thing? The vacuum extraction thing that they use in the hospital to actually help with the delivery? Because of lack of that, so many women are dying in the hospital. If they tell you the numbers, it's shocking. It's unbelievable. So, I mean,
and even lack of oxygen alone, just oxygen.
A small little equipment that would have cost less than $500 is causing so many deaths. It's not even funny. Why are we allowing these things to happen? Why are we allowing our cities to be like our citizens to be treated like this? The most vulnerable of our society, which is the women. So these poor women from these other places will come. They cannot go to these clinics that are you have to pay so much money to. So they have to go to the major hospitals. But if you go to those hospitals, they don't even have a vacuum extractor over there. They don't have oxygen. They don't have anything. So any complication in your delivery process, you are gone. You bad luck for you. You die and your child dies. I mean, you know, people don't understand, but you don't have the proper leadership. It can be a disaster. And this is the disaster that we have unfolding. We have to have a serious government that's going to take these issues seriously, deal with them. These things have to be taken care of with a policy approach, deliberate policy approach, where somebody sits there, think it through, experts gather together, come up with a game plan, and then execute that game plan by people who are competent, who are doing the right thing, who are not there for their pockets, but for the country, and do the job. If we don't have that, we are kidding ourselves. People will continue to die, and the women and children and the elderly are the most vulnerable. They are the ones taking the brunt of this madness at the end of the day. And so here we are once again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Banka. If Gambia is a business entity, it should be with the administrators by now. You know, it's sad. This is a country, unfortunately, been run by, you know, what Dave said. Nyancho said that I'm scared to say that, you know, but lions should step forward. Banka, one thing also, no, I'm going to Professor Conteh. Gambians are not highlighting, and they should by now, the issue of private clinics. These clinics are exorbitantly expensive, but they rely on doctors from this health facility. I know one particular doctor. One of my uncle have hip problem. I called him, and he told me which day is suitable for you. This is one doctor, and he still work. He's the leader in his area at the RBTH. He work on 4 different clinics on 4 different dates. You know, AfriMed, you know, Combo Clinic, you know, and the other ones, you know. So depending on which day, then we tell you meet them there. This lady started at the private clinic, and that's where probably she got infected anyway. And I've seen also this many times. They will butcher people, you know, when they cannot manage, they refer them back to RBTH. So it's about how can we build the confidence, or how can we just invest? This is only one hospital. Let us throw everything at it and make sure it's world class, so we can stop all this death. You know, Prof, before I let you I will start from Malik Manneh. We suggested maybe this program should be in local language. The problem is, you know, most people not everybody can speak all these local languages, and our targets are the youth population, the younger ones, and also the policy makers. So you said these 2 groups mainly understand English. For the other group, I write them off because, you know, you cannot probably influence those people. So that's why we stick to English. You don't want to left out any other tribe. They want to listen, but they cannot understand the language. So we believe the target population, most of them understand English. And Jundu Kinte is suggesting a farmer should be a president by now, because the English learners, he said, are 6 and 9s. And Lamin A. Jabang said, Bank, I totally agree with you. Our government is all over the place with these COVID-19 pandemics, and they have no plans. And he went on to say, we need to thank or help our professionals for the gallant effort, despite they are faced with limited or non-existent resources. That's a fact. These people, we've seen how COVID in fact ravaged them, our healthcare providers, because they are not properly equipped. They are not even properly trained. There was money there for them to upgrade them and train them about handling this pandemic, but it was never there. Malik Mane, but Banka, they should have never sent anyone away before making so. They cannot, Malik. Unfortunately, Gambia, if you do COVID test, it takes 72 hours minimum. So this lady is gasping for air. This is another problem. Senegal is doing very well. We are not. We can borrow this technology from Senegal. They made their own test kit, what they call RDT, that is rapid detection kits. So if they want to test it and know it's not possible until 72 hours. So why waste them time? Tell them go to an isolation facility where she can be looked after, a sample can be sent to the lab. And again, we need to thank our, and I read that already. So Prof. Conteh, what do you say? This lady started at a private clinic, and when they cannot manage the situation, they send her back to EF, still cannot get used to this, Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, right? Okay, they send her back there, but then she was already gasping for air. What do we do with this private clinic, and what can we do to make sure the private clinic are not the alpha and the omega, especially in the combos?
Okay, I want to go back to history because it seems like we tend to blame, continuous blame on Barrow's government, but we also have to blame the coalition government, including UDP, because of the fact, that when they were with Barrow, whatever Barrow did was good. When they fell out, no one in the Gambia, because you can go back to Saada's government, where when Saada had problem with most of his vice presidents, particularly Serif Mustafa Deba, no one in the Gambia from Koina all the way to Khartoum came to the State House and went to Serif Mustafa Deba's compound to say, today you will kick me out, but you all two need to get back together. So we have this level of hypocrisy where when you are with the team you enjoy, when you fall out, your opposition will be there to support you. Your team will be there to support you. So we never look at Gambia. I can also even tell you, Pierre Esnyai suffered the same fate. When he was with his people, the UP MPs, they all cross-capital to what? To PPP, except Honorable Foster and Job. So we have this history in the Gambia whereby when someone wins the election and you are with them, you fall out with them, guess what? You go your separate way and you say, from Bay of Bono, but you're not going to try to come back together for nation building. So again, if we blame the Barrow government for the existing problem that we have, I think we also have to be fair to say that the UDP leadership failed the Gambia because of the fact that Barrow kicked most of them out. But what I don't understand, even some of the presidential advisors, they were even called to resign. So we have a problem. And so now what Barrow did was went to Yahya Jammeh's supporters too, and now look what we have. Again, I want to also add to something, and I think this is a joke though, because in Gunjur used to be the Charlo capital of Kombo. It used to be, even somebody will come with a bicycle, Charlo, they would drive all the way to Kafuta. Can you believe that? And I bet some people went all the way down to Serakunda to sell Charlo and so forth. So those things happen in our country. But when it comes to these clinics, why should the government allow a private clinic to admit a pregnant woman for delivery. I think that they should try to stop that from happening in our country. This lady, the late Fatoumata Diba, she had vaginal delivery, and then the next, because she had twins, the next one was through cesarean operation. So do we know whether she even died of bleeding? And then again,
yeah, I want to come there.
very good.
That's another possibility, because law, if you bleed to a certain extent, you cannot have enough oxygen. It might not even be COVID. I've seen another test which they say is negative, is possible. But if you don't have enough oxygen in your enough red blood cells in your body, you cannot transport enough oxygen through your body, so you're going to gasp for air. And this is very, very common issue. That's why at delivery they need concentrated oxygen, so that even the women are anemic, with that level of low level of oxygen in their system, they can still have enough oxygen to transport them around. And oxygen don't only kill, even if the woman survive, but if you are starved of oxygen during delivery, it can damage the brain of the baby. That's why we have these permanently brain damage kids. If you go to the West, there are a lot of them in special care homes. In the Gambia, they call them Jin and Dingol, and nobody even look at them. They died before the age of 5. But this is a big issue. What you mentioned is a big possibility. It could be overbleeding, that bleeding cannot be stopped. And even if you transfuse, it's still bleeding. That's what they call basket bleeding, because as you transfuse, the blood keep coming. That's a possibility. We don't have the full done. So anybody in that condition will be gasping for air. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you ever were close, if you knew someone who had cesarean operation, it is very, very painful, even after they put everything in for the woman. It's very, even if they release you, go home, it's very, very, very painful. So, but again, the government should stop the delivery of pregnant women in private clinics. I think if somebody will say, well, yeah, we can know. We can say we agree with that. But when this is done for profit making, my own first cousin died over 40 years ago, and her husband was from where? From Sukuta. So again, another nephew's wife, last name Lee, also died at the Hamadia Hospital. So we are not taking records of those things. And in my view, I think, what we need to do is to look also at the working hours of doctors. Mm-hmm. So if you are a medical doctor, so you're actually compromising your responsibility. So when someone's supposed to come to the hospital, you say, meet me at this clinic. So which means that, so all these things are profit making. And a gentleman told me, he said that, do you know most of the clinics that are somewhere in Manjai? He said 75% of them have fake medication. I said, how do you know that? He said, well, I take blood pressure pills. So when I left the United States, I came here, and my pills were, I used all of my pills. So I went back to the hospital. I went to the clinic. They gave me my medication. He went to a pharmacist. The pharmacist did experiment on it, and all the pills were fake. So the expulsion of private clinics in the Gambia with no regulation, the increase in pharmacies in the Gambia with no regulation. So this is the disaster that we have. But again, in the memory of Fatoumata Diba, I think this incident should not even have happened. But I think the government should step in and say, private clinics should not admit any woman for delivery. And because if you have complications, where are they going to take you to? They're going to take you to the only hospital we have in Banjul. So even if you are in Pakala Hospital somewhere, the clinic in Banjul South, if you're going to move somebody there, it's going to take some time, particularly when someone is bleeding. How about if you are in the combos, you have to go through those, you have to go through the traffic. So again, I think we need to have some regulating the doctors on the number of hours they can work. And I think it's self-dealing for a doctor to be telling a patient, instead of you going to our main hospital, meet me at a clinic. So this is Gambia, and we don't have the right people in place. And I think as an independent, I believe that we can, if we're going to have a next government, we should have a government that is inclusive, because for far too long, Gambians have gone through a lot of issues, and we cannot repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. Come on, we have intelligent people in our country. These people should be given the opportunity. Even the medical, even the minister of health, is a medical doctor, but I don't think he's given the tools to do what he's supposed to do. So again, everything has been politicized to an extent, and folks die. I know, Fatoumata's little twin kids that are there. I know it's very tough on the family, and we wish them well. And it's very sad, Every single time, people are telling me that if a woman is pregnant in the Gambia, Masibolo, because you don't even know what's going to happen to that lady. So I hope the government will realistically look at our concerns and concerns of other people, so that we can end this mystery. But we cannot have medical doctors double dipping, meaning that they work at the hospital and also telling their patients to meet them at private clinics. I think that is self-serving, and it is not good for our country. It's very, very sad to see what happened to this young, nice, beautiful woman to just die like that. But in my view, I think she died of bleeding, not COVID. And correctly, Mr. Manjang, as you said.
Thank you very much. I think, yeah, that's a plausible explanation. I will read two comments, then I will let David collect. Close this program. We've come to the end of it, and again, a very, very, very productive meeting, and I believe it will go a long way to inform the public. Njundu Kinde said, "You are right, bro. That's happened to my brother's wife. Died together with her son in Brikama almost 2 weeks ago." And I believe if we take an instant survey here, almost everybody watching or us who are contributing will know somebody who died of maternal death. Either she died with the kids or the lady died. So this is a pandemic of its own. Banka mentioned, and the government was brave enough. They suggested that to completely close Serekunda Hospital and turn it into COVID treatment center. When they have all the monies to come up with those tents where they can isolate the COVID patients there. So what happened to the diabetes? Those who are struggling with diabetes, those who have kidney issues, they need dialysis. The hypertensive, those who need physiotherapy, where are they going to go? But I hope, because there was an outcry in the diaspora, I had Sankano come and trying to defend it, but it seems like they pull out of that. I wouldn't recommend they close or they stop women delivering in this private clinic. What we should put our government authority is to these things, they need to be properly regulated, because this is about people's life. This is about life and a matter of life and death. But what is happening because of corruption, the way these clinics are established, I don't even know. How are they giving them licenses? They should know the quality of doctors they have. They should properly check their facilities. Are they up to scratch? If things start going wrong, do they have those backups? We need to know, because as soon as you admit somebody, before you properly hand them over to another facility, it's your responsibility. So I'm going to read one more statement, then I will let Dave come in. The last one, yes. Lamine Conteh today is the star of the show. He said, it is true, all parties, especially the majority UDP, created this mess. But we need to come up with coherent plans in dealing with national issues. We cannot just let things happen without planning. This means we need to engage competent Gambians in our civil service. Let's put politics aside when appointing people. The human resources is there. We have a large pool of talented young Gambians and professionals. I think Banka summarized this very well when he said, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So Dave, you can today take the honors and close this program for us. Thank you once again to all the panelists and also to the viewers of Gunjur TV, Gunjur Online TV, and also the commentators. Your comments keep us going. You give us the pointers. We value your comments and time, and thank you very much. Allah Barak. Yes, Dave. You are muted.
Thank you, Mr. Manjang. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, someone get the money. Mina burki banga besela.
Kanga blika mangaya ke jamba diabo kan with microphone. But Allah barakabago. Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, this is becoming a cliche now. Really, it's probably very tired cliche. But you can never get away from it. This poor governance system we have in the Gambia, really, and it's no accountability there. So whether it's the police forces or the security services or even the armed forces, in every sphere of Gambian public life, it's just no accountability anywhere. So one doctor, like the example is saying, if he's at 3 different clinics, how efficient is he gonna be? But if somebody died in the hospital, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not in social media, I'm not on Facebook, so I wasn't even aware of this until yesterday. Somebody mentioned it to me. So obviously, my condolences to the family. May Allah grant the lady and the babies places in Jannah. But I think it's a terrible case. And like this other guy just said, his brother also, brother's wife also passed away in a hospital in Brikama. A few years ago, my own friend, my childhood friend from Yundum, he lived in the UK. His wife passed away back home while giving birth. It was shocking to me. And if that happened in the UK, the whole hospital, not only the doctors and the nurses who were actually on duty, the whole hospital will have to answer why somebody died. I mean, it does happen here, don't get me wrong, but there's accountability. And then they do accountability so that they can put mechanisms in place so that we can prevent such occurrences in the future. But these things don't happen in the Gambia. I know this is becoming a broken record, but like I said, poor administration, we don't have systems that work. Until we can get these foundations, we're always going to be hitting our heads against the wall. We're not going to make any progress. Because you just patching over, major problems you have. You just need to redig the foundation and start from scratch and just build a proper foundation. Let's go up. Like Dr. Kante, sometimes he goes back to Jawaras. I mean, we are very young, so we don't understand that much politics about Jawara, unfortunately. Thankfully, I never experienced a life living under the man anyway. But obviously, I was old enough to understand politics, then I could do social commentary. But when it comes to Barrow, we're like, it's nothing personal, because even though with my political cluelessness, even with my relative view compared to you, I know the foundations were never built, and those foundations are the blame laid squarely at the foot of Sadawada and his people, the first people who call us so and so gave us independence. Because if you didn't civilly empower your people, they don't even know what's political empowerment is. And we have this politics of like reincarnation of the Mansaya, you have Mansa Musa or Sunjata Keta and the Jalosa after him singing. So people got this concept that we need to move away from this Mansaya or Buria to democratic accountability on politics. Our people still don't get this. Even back home, we will tell you, Moni Mansa Bugakele. You just have to tell them this is the Mansa from Mansa Musa, and these guys are not the same. So our people still haven't got this.
And you're a nyancho.
There you go. We're not patronizing them either, but there you go. That's okay. There you go. But Allah Baraka, anyway, I think this has been very fruitful. Like I said, we do social commentary here. And I think if Mr. Manja is saying, if people back home are listening, then I think we're making progress. So, and I think we need to make that, let them be welcome. Let them feel that, we're not here to castigate only. And then what do we say, even if we call them out, we actually call the institution, not the persons. So even the metaphor using like the donkey and the lion is a saying here. It doesn't mean that Barrow is a donkey, by the way. They just say that some, like you got people who are strong, they should lead naturally. That's all. But then some people are not strong, but they can say they've got brute force. So it's just that metaphorical speaking. But the man is not a donkey, obviously, at all. I just need to clarify that. It's just a metaphor I'm using. So, but yeah, we come back. So, like I said, it's a broken record. I can say this over and over again. We need to go to the foundation. We need to fix this. Otherwise, we're just going nowhere. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Allah Baraka. Thank you very much once again.
1 second. 1 second, sir.
Okay.
If I may add, the young guy, Lamin Ejabang, actually is a cousin of mine, and
Okay.
he's from Combo East. So we had two Combo East people here.
Okay.
Alright.
He did very well. So he
Yeah.
compliment you very well today.
Yes. He
Thank
was a
you very
panelist,
much. I
man.
hope
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
might be Lamin Kitty Jaban's family and all that, right?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Nyang Malik. Yeah, Baraka. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.